Oh, here we go. We're just convening, Michael. So first thing today, I've got 5 pages here and they're sitting on the front row and I'd like to introduce you to them. They're going to be with me all day and they're hoping they'll be on camera and they can look at themselves later. So we have, just raise your hand when I call your name because I can't hardly see you guys. We have Isaac Waltner. Hi, Isaac. Dexter Lonergan, Walter Hageman, Winston Waltner, and Braden Williams. They're from Landon Middle School in Topeka and Topeka High. So they're going to be here all day. And today they have a wonderful opportunity to learn everything there is to know about a couple things. So welcome. Okay, so folks, the very first thing I'll ask is, do we have any bill introductions? Anybody on committee? Anybody in the audience? We only have one more day that you can introduce bills, and that will be Monday, February 3rd. I know. Okay, all right, very good. I don't see any. All right, first thing we're going to do today is we have just an informational presentation on paid family and medical leave. You've got information in your folder, and I would like to invite, who would like to come up first? Come on up, Jan. Tracy. We got Tracy and Jan, sorry. Oh my gosh. Well, welcome. Thank you.
And Kansas City, Missouri. And we pull from the zip codes that have the highest rates of infant mortality in the metro. So these are extremely vulnerable families who we serve. Today, I'm here to speak on behalf of the Paid Leave for All Kansans Coalition. There are at least 12 organizations that are involved in this effort and counting, and we kind of cross the gamut of organizations that have an interest in this issue that I'll speak to today. But we have coalesced around this issue that we think paid family and medical leave would be great for Kansas workers and great for Kansas employers as well. And it really represents kind of a common sense balance between health and family needs and work. Currently, there are 14 states that have paid family and medical leave policies in place. The closest state to us would be Colorado, which has just implemented within the last year. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the conditions to which paid family and medical leave generally apply. So parental leave would be one, so maternity and paternity leave. And the second one would be if you have a serious medical condition or a family member has a serious medical condition. The third would be to take care of elder family members. And then the fourth is for military personnel, both for deployment and reentry. So what is paid family and medical leave? It is an opportunity for employees and employers through a small payroll contribution to pool funds that are then collected at the state level. So should an incident or need arise from one of those 4 kind of sectors that I talked about, that employee would be eligible for leave. Most states that have done this have patterned it a little bit along the lines of the Federal Family and Medical Leave Act, or FMLA, in that what we look at is probably 12 weeks of paid time off would be the goal. And how it differs from FMLA, though, is FMLA is really a job holder. It's not paid leave. So in other words, you can't be fired for taking leave. FMLA also only applies to employers of 50 or more, and it applies to public sector employees as well as the education sector. So as a result, majority of employees actually are not eligible for FMLA. And on the paid family and medical leave front in Kansas, only about 21% of employees actually have a benefit like that so far. And when Jan speaks, she's going to talk about her experience as an employer. So let's talk a little bit about parental leave. This is really what brought me to the table on this issue. I'm sure, as you're all aware, we've seen a substantial increase and attention paid to maternal mental health in the state of Kansas as well as nationally. If you look at maternal mortality rates in Kansas, about 25% are due to mental health and substance use disorders for mothers. What we've seen and what is that when paid leave is implemented, it has a great impact on reducing postpartum depression. And it's frankly very good for the family. It's good for the baby, it's good for the parents, because for one, you're not having to risk your financial livelihood to stay home in those very important early days after the birth or adoption of a child, when it's a great opportunity for bonding. Other states have shown that parents are much more likely to get babies to those well visits if they have that time off. They are much more likely to bond. They are much more likely to not get quite as stressed out and take that out on the infant, is what we've seen. Moving on to taking leave for a serious medical condition, I think for all of us at any time, we could experience something that requires us to step away from work for a while. And I've certainly experienced that, and I know a number of you have. And reducing some of that stress so that we can tend to our health needs is very important for Kansas families. The third issue I want to talk about is senior care. And I think this is such an important issue as we grapple with an aging population, and that our support systems really haven't adapted to these longer life expectancies. And what we've seen, and this is straight from KDADS, about 85% of senior caregivers are unpaid. Also, a good majority of those are people who are also holding down jobs while they're trying to care for seniors. And as we try to keep seniors aging in place and with dignity, sometimes all it takes is a little time off to kind of figure out what your plans are, how you tap into local resources, and hopefully, delay institutional care. And I think particularly, for any of us in the sandwich generation where we're still raising kids and we're trying to help out elderly parents, this could be a great benefit for them. So in terms of implementation, states have all kinds of policy levers that they can make around this, on everything from how long does an employee need to be employed before they're eligible, what is that percentage that's contributing to the state pool. There's also a lag time between when the program is started and when it's implemented. And one of the reasons for that is to ensure that this is self-funded. This is a pool. It's not paid for with the state's dollars. It is paid for entirely in the states that have done it through that employer and employee contribution. I think one other economic benefit to this is what we've seen in other states is there has been considerably less reliance on public assistance for families that have access to this. They're not having to access other points of the social safety net as a result. If they can just keep their jobs, it's great for recruitment and retention, and we really feel like for small businesses in particular, this levels the playing field. Right now, if they were to have this kind of policy, they would have to fund it entirely on their own. By creating this pool, this is a benefit then that employers would have for their employees and hopefully result in greater retention. So with that, I would conclude my remarks and happy to take questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Thank you, Tracy. Jan, would you like to come up? Welcome to the committee. We have just a few minutes, so thank you.
Good morning. My name's Jan Mars, and I'm a shareholder with my CPAs here in Topeka. I've been in HR for quite a few decades, from Fortune 50 companies to mid-size and small businesses. I formerly held a CPA license as well as financial advisor licenses, and currently I'm got the SHRM SCP title as well. I'm here today to talk about the business benefits of implementing paid parental leave. As a background for our culture, Mize here is a top 200 accounting firm based in Topeka with around 300 employees and are a $40 million full-service accounting firm. We pride ourselves on a family-friendly culture that will attract and retain employees for a lifetime. As a firm, obviously, with double digits growth in the last 5 to 10 years, talent is absolutely critical to our business. We're in a market where CPAs are retiring at an alarming rate. We believe, a quote from AICPA says 75% of CPAs will be retired in the next 10 years. And the number of younger accountants graduating with an accounting degree is dropping significantly as well. So talent is critical. With that background, what inspired us to focus on paid parental leave? Simply put, feedback from our employees, our recruits, and our bottom line. We have a strategic HR goal to beat industry retention levels of 80%. And this was an area that our current employees said we needed an additional investment in to fully support our family-focused culture. So we also received direct feedback as a small business when we were trying to recruit people that this was a benefit that was not sufficient, and we lost some top recruits. So what was the business case to our board? To cover the expense, because Mize fully funds this at this point. Obviously, the feedback results from our employees, stories of lost recruits. We looked at the business case from a retention perspective and said, hey, our goal will be that this will increase employee retention by 1%, which saves us close to $100,000 a year per person. And then part of this was also a cost to provide this earlier in people's employment because we were losing people in the 1 to 5 year range. So we lowered this so people could earn this early as after being with us for 12 months. So, and of course, it was also an employment branding exercise for us. This is what our recruits are telling us they wanted, and so it was important to our employment branding to make this investment. So we did this 2 years ago, and I thought I would share some of the results with you so you could see the benefits this could have for other small to mid-size employers. For the last 2 years since we have implemented this policy, we've had industry-leading retention of 87 to 88%. We have not lost a single recruit due to concerns over parental leave. We have also received the prestigious Employee Voted Award with USA Today as a top workplace for both 24 and 25. We have received strongly improved employee feedback scores on both benefits and our family culture. And we had one surprising result, maybe it doesn't surprise others, but we've seen increased productivity from secondary caregivers, which we are usually, in a lot of cases, are the men who now have the parental leave available to them, largely due to the fact we now have planned leave instead of unplanned leave. And so we can better work around that as a business to cover what had been unplanned absences caused by daycare, doctor's visits, helping support the other family member or spouse. And for us, that can be absolutely critical during work periods, around year end, obviously, as a CPA firm during tax season. So as a small business or mid-sized business, in conclusion, we feel like the business case for the additional investment has produced significant gains in talent, employment branding, and retention that exceeded the business case we originally proposed to put paid parental leave in place. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Committee, do you have any questions of either presenter? Senator Haley? Sorry, Haley.
Yes. No, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is most informative. Thank both of you for your insight. I'm particularly interested in not only the statistics that you give for retention and for the quality of maintaining the workforce and, of course, reducing newborn, especially the infancy rate. Are there models that have been in place that you've seen in other states? Because I don't know if this committee is contemplating or if there's something in the pipeline that would augment your efforts, legislation that has been mirrored elsewhere perhaps in another state or another jurisdiction, that has shown increasingly these statistics are borne out, and that we could bring the improvement here to Kansas, if so implemented.
Sure, Madam Chair, Senator, there are 14 states that have now implemented. The one that we've been looking at that has been recently adopted is Minnesota's model. You know, we definitely prefer the models where it is employer and employee split. And, you know, we have seen over half of states have been considering this type of legislation in recent years. It's really gained steam as everyone tries to, you know, put in place that work-life balance and meet employees where they need to. And so as these have been adopted, they've gotten better and better. And, you know, I think initially many of them focused almost exclusively on paid parental leave, whereas we've seen an expansion of that now, which we think is important to cover so many of these life circumstances that we all face. Does that answer your question?
It does, and I appreciate that. And thank you, by the way, personal privilege for the work that you're doing in Wyandotte County in and around the community and the district I represent.
Thank
Heard about you and very much appreciate what you're doing.
Glad somebody's heard about me.
We have nurtured, yes, we have. Thank you, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Beck.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Executive Director, for your presentation. How do you start a state pool? You know, when you start off and then have a whole bunch of claims on it. I just wondered how it starts.
Sure. So there is a delay in terms of when you actually begin dispersing claims. Most states have either an 18-month to a 36-month collection period before they start dispersing for this purpose to make sure that it is self-funded and that the revenue is there to meet the needs.
Okay. Now, this is optional for the employees. Do I understand that right? Or does the employer or employee, who pays for this?
They both pay for it.
Both pay.
They both generally split that cost.
But it is optional?
No, this would not be optional. If it were a state law, it would apply statewide. Now, I will say, most states have kind of an employee threshold by which they may exempt. For instance, in Colorado, if you are a 10-employee business, you're exempt from it. So that's obviously a policy decision.
So how does people feel that can't have children or their parents aren't alive? You know, kind of thing. When they sit there, if it's forced on them, you have a problem, issue with that. Could see that coming up.
Right. Well, and I think, you know, for most of us, when it comes to our own health, many people can't anticipate what they might or might not need in terms of leave. And I would go to, you know, you have any number of programs where you may not personally be impacted, but for the good of the whole, we embark on those. You know, I would say plenty of people don't have kids in the school system, but they benefit from that.
Okay. So when you talk about senior care, do you have parents? So I've got parents and they both die, or for some reason, but I got a grandparent I'm taking care of. Is it just for parents, or?
No, it would not be just for parents, but that again would be defined. It could be whoever the primary caregiver is in the family.
Last question, Madam Chair. Sure. Can you give me an example of what the cost per month would be to somebody on some of these?
I can, and my colleague may be better equipped to do that. She actually just ran some numbers. What this would be on average would be under 1% of earnings, and that would be split between employer and employee. And Brenda, can I defer to Brenda?
Would you just come up and introduce yourself, and this will be our last exchange because we have a bill we have to have.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senator. A quick calculation based on the average weekly earnings for a Kansas employee would show that the employer contribution at about a little under 0.5% would be about $260 a year for that one employee. And as my colleague Tracy mentioned, that in other states that have enacted this, over 60% of the claims have been for an individual's own serious medical needs. So only 40% have been for elder care and parental bonding. 60% have been for the individual care. So to answer your previous question about why would someone benefit who's paying in, it's mostly 60% have been for that individual. So, thank you.
Would you state your name for
I'm
the record and
sorry.
who you are?
I failed the
all right.
instructions. I'm Brenda Bandy, Executive Director of the Kansas Breastfeeding Coalition, and thank you for allowing me to comment.
Thank you. One last question, because we have to open our hearing. Go ahead. Are you sure? Okay, very good. Very good. It's a simple bill, so. Then, just a hearing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's no bill being proposed for paid medical.
There is
paid
not.
Family and medical leave. Okay, thank you.
Very good. This was primarily an informational hearing. I don't think I've ever been on this committee where we had a bill proposed, so it was mostly an informational hearing kind of opportunity for us, kind of judge interest, so very good. Well, thank you so much for being here today. It was very, very informative, and thank you. We love practical information. We love data, too. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right. So committee, you'll see also that there's proponent written testimony, even though it's not a bill, but we have other organizations that are supportive of this concept, so you see that in your folder. Yes? Not that I know of. If Senator Gossage were here, we could ask about public health and welfare, but not that I know of. Not that I know of. And I don't know about anything on the House side either. Okay. We won't put her on the spot as she just walked in. All right, committee. At this point, we are going to open the hearing on Senate Bill 28. I've just lost my agenda, but I think I know what I'm doing here. I've got it. I just put it in the wrong folder. I put it, too many folders, too many pieces of paper. We're good. Okay, so committee, Senate Bill 28, we will open the hearing now, and I would ask the reviser to give us a bill brief.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Senate Bill 28 would update the public adjuster and insurance agents statutes pertaining to suspension, revocation, denial of licensure, and licensure renewal. The bill first amends KSA 40-5510, which is the public adjuster licensing statute, in order to make the statute consistent with KSA 40-4909, which is the insurance agent licensing statute. And most of the amendments that are being made to the statute simply replicate from the insurance agent statute into the public adjuster licensing statute some additional criteria. And if you look on page 6 of the bill, starting in line 4, and you look at that italicized language, that's all new language that's coming in from the agent statute, which, if you look on page 2, starting in line 26, you'll see is identical. So that's exactly what we're doing. We're bringing the two statutes into alignment with each other. The bill also amends KSA 40-4909, the insurance agent statute, to make corresponding amendments to its language to include the public adjuster statute where it needs to go, and make the two statutes correspond and make the language read correctly. If you look at page 1 at the bottom, in line 35, you'll see we just added public adjuster license, and then securities registration was an additional add that came from the department. The one thing I do want to mention is that should the committee act favorably upon the bill, I do need to make a technical amendment, and that would be on page 5 in line 25, failing to respond to an inquiry from the commissioner within 15 days. It actually should be 15 business days, so I would need to make that one-word amendment. And with that, Madam Chair, I can stand for questions.
Thank you, Eileen. Committee, do you have any questions of Eileen? Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Eileen, okay. I think that was pretty straightforward. Our first proponent is Eric Turek from the Kansas Department of Insurance. I always want to say Kansas Insurance Department. Kansas Department of Insurance. Is it Kansas Insurance Department?
Madam Chair, in statute, the Department of Insurance and Insurance Department, they're seen both in statute. No matter, Eric Turek from the Kansas Department of Insurance. I'm very pleased to speak to you in support of Senate Bill 28. As the committee knows, the Department of Insurance licenses insurance agents, and I'll refer to those as producers and public adjusters both. Most of those statutes mirror each other. In both of the statutes, it's 40-4909 and 40-5510. They allow the commissioner to factor in any offenses that may have been committed by an applicant or a licensee when choosing to review and choosing to act on a license or application, and specifically choosing to deny, suspend, or revoke one. Some offenses include misdemeanors or felonies that are committed by the applicant or the licensee. Now, currently so both statutes are the same, but currently just for the producer side, it also requires that the commissioner factor in the age of the applicant or licensee when the offense was committed, the recency of the offense, and the severity of the offense, and some other items that you'll see at the bottom of page 2 and the top of page 3. We want to apply that to the public adjuster side of the ledger to ensure that there's parity on both sides, so that the same standard can be applied for both licensees, or both types of licenses. The second portion of the bill concerns, you'll see it's at the bottom of page 1, and then again in the top half of page 5, and it allows the commissioner to factor in when determining whether to revoke, suspend, or deny a license, if they had another license or registration that we issue, suspended or revoked, the commissioner can factor that in when she makes that decision for the license at hand. I know that the agents on the committee will know especially that if it's not always, but sometimes, when you are a life insurance agent, you may also be a securities professional, and this gives us the flexibility to factor that in. If that registration is revoked, we can use that to revoke a license as well. And that's already in the securities statutes also. If there's an insurance agent who's also a securities professional, they have their license revoked, the securities registration can be revoked as well. So kind of lots of jargon there. I'd be happy to clarify anything and answer any questions.
Your committee, do you have any questions? Senator Fack?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I kind of held up on when other people asked questions here. I took too many.
I think you might spark somebody.
Eric, thank you for being here today. So when it says when considering whether to deny or suspend, what are we doing now? I mean, this kind of lines up what we do. What happens before this bill is what I'm saying. Is that just more at the discretion of the insurance commissioner? Sure.
So currently for the insurance agent, the commissioner already has the full authority. It's just on the public adjuster side. The commissioner already does take into consideration by statute if there's an offense committed, the commissioner reviews those offenses when determining whether to deny, suspend, or revoke. It's specifically just the portion on the bottom of page 2 where the commissioner shall also factor in the age in which the offense took place, the severity and the recency, only for the public adjuster side. So the commissioner's already doing this for the producer licenses. It's just for the review of the public adjuster licenses.
Thank you.
Senator Gossage.
Eric, thank you, Madam Chair. Eric, perhaps it would be helpful if you were to tell the committee and those listening what is a public adjuster.
I definitely can. You know, and the department regulates and licenses over 200,000 insurance agents across the country. There's really only 250 commercial public adjusters who really can adjust or assist with the claims settlement process for businesses specifically. And so to wrap up, we are just copying the statutes that are already in the producer licensing statute and mirroring them and applying them to the public adjuster statute. Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you for that. Other questions, anyone on the committee? All right. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. We have proponent written testimony from Craig, is it Sepich, the Director of Strategy, Policy, and Government Affairs from the National Insurance Crime Bureau. Do we have any opponent testimony? I don't see any neutral testimony. So we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 28, and we are ending our work early today, so I'm very pleased. And you just got here, but welcome. So I just want to remind you that there is no meeting tomorrow. Our next meeting will be on Monday, and that is the last day to do bill introductions. And we have got a full slate of hearings and working bills, and we'll let you know what bills are going to be worked on your agendas. So we will see you on Monday. Have a good weekend, everybody. Thank you.